I mean, it can be awful.
It's $18 in a plastic jug.
Yeah.
It's got to be
That was
something,
$18.
right?
Yeah.
I have some relatives that would love this.
I've got another
You probably
one.
do too.
I got another one.
Welcome back to Arsenic Culture, where beer don't count, but bad decisions do. Matt, what the fuck was that?
I'm Jason. I think it's a question. You kind of fucked that one up.
I'm Kendra.
Hi.
Hi.
I was getting ready to hiccup, and then I swallowed it. And then I just like kept going with the inflection. That was pretty fucked up. But welcome back. It's good to have Jason.
Yeah.
It's good to have my wife, Kendra. Thanks for coming, babe.
Thanks for having
Are you
me.
drunk yet?
Almost.
We'll get you there. Beer don't count. We'll start opening beers here for quick
Bad
shots.
thing is we've not drank any beer.
No,
So everything counts
We
right
haven't
now.
done any quick
Shit.
shots yet. So, the night is young. But today we have a super interesting story. This is really fun to me. A while back, we did an episode on Koji whiskey. Do you remember that, Jason? And you tried Koji whiskey, Kendra. Do you remember
Nope.
trying it? Oh, sweet.
No.
It's one of those days. Koji whiskey is whiskey made with Koji. It was actually a pretty revolutionary process made by Dr. Jokichi Takamine. In that episode, we talked about something which was pretty fucking crazy. And it had to do with his attempted murder. The company, the entity that reputedly was involved or in charge of trying to kill him was something colloquially known as the Whiskey Trust. Or formally, what is their formal name?
I don't have a formal name. That's it.
The formal name is the Distillers and Cattle Feeders Trust. But this entity was pretty notorious back in the day, the late 1800s, as kind of being like, I don't know if they're one of the first monopolies.
I would say no. I think the railroad would predate that, right? I mean,
That's probably true. The railroad's actually what led to like the collapse, honestly.
yeah. I mean, that's.
But these people were ruthless. Like,
oh yeah.
they were like firebombing people. They were like buying businesses just to shut them down.
Yep.
This was like hardcore. Like, you watch like old mobster movies, and they come in and be like, "Hey, we're glad you joined your business in our neighborhood. We're going to charge you a small fee just for our protection."
Yep.
You know, we want
65%.
yeah, that kind of underhand shit. This was actually going on back then, but on like a regional scale. When I say regional, I mean like 25% of the United States. Like,
In the 1800s?
yeah, this was huge.
Wow.
Like they were running shit.
Yeah.
We're gonna start out talking about how these guys really, I guess, came into power.
Yeah.
Or how they first they established themselves.
I think it started with good intentions, and here's what I mean by
You think
that.
so?
I really do. I really do.
Okay,
I think it was almost like a union, like a unionization of like, let's make things uniformed and better for all of us and cheaper ingredients and all these things.
But depending on who you ask too about a union, you know, there's lots of opinions about that.
Pros
too.
and cons.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Jimmy Hoffa from
Right,
that. Right?
yeah, exactly.
But I think what ended up happening in a short amount of time was, screw all this, we're going to get all the money and control everything.
Right, because you can, yeah.
In a short amount of time, it's probably like 2 months.
Very short amount of time, yeah.
So in 1871, Republican operatives under the pretext, good Lord, I'm struggling. The pretext of raising money for the Republican
I'm just going to
convention.
dump everything like it's a Japanese like horror movie.
Look,
You're like,
Godzilla.
Godzilla, yeah, I'm just having you move your mouth and I'll just talk over it. It's fine. Say whatever you want to say.
Jesus Christ. So it started under trying to raise money allegedly for the Republican campaign. That was really not the truth. It quickly became a criminal syndicate.
I didn't actually know that. I didn't know that they were
that's how
trying
it
they were trying to raise money for the Republican
Well,
Party.
they
That's
weren't.
interesting. Right. I never heard that they were. That was the claim.
Like again, when I say it lasted 2 months, that's actually like probably true.
Yeah.
So it quickly became the criminal syndicate with whiskey distilleries bribing Department of Treasury officials. So again, the goal was to try to avoid or increase profits by avoiding taxes.
Yeah. The taxes were levied from the Civil War, which during the war they taxed everything to make money for the war. After the war, they got rid of the tax except for tobacco and alcohol because they were making a shitload of money on tobacco and alcohol.
For sure. Same as you do now, right? I've
Yeah.
been taxed to death.
Exactly. Yeah. Was it syntax?
Yeah. Well, like in some of the surrounding counties. So Georgetown, Nicholasville.
Yeah. So that's where that came from.
So what they would do is they'd pay the officials a lower tax rate. So if your tax rate was 9%, you'd pay them at a 4 or whatever it was.
Gotcha.
They would also reuse their revenue stamps. So I guess like you've heard of like, or I have in country songs and other things like a revenuer man, you know, somebody that watches you for taxes. They would use that stamp again and again and again so they wouldn't have to pay for it. So these guys were nickel and diamond, but still trying to make that profit.
Up there too, yeah.
Yeah. So the kingpin of all this was General John McDonald. He was a revenue collector in Missouri, and he worked with Grant's private secretary, Orville Babcock, to keep it hidden.
And it was crazy that this guy was a military general. He was awarded his general status by Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, damn, I didn't see that part.
I believe. And
Sounds good. We'll see it.
And then he ends up being like, you know what, let's take a little off the top, you know what I'm saying? Like, you would think, like, at that level, you'd be like, I'm a pretty prestigious guy.
Oh, yeah.
I have,
respectable. And
scruples. But no, he's like, no, fuck it. I'm going to make mine.
he's like, I want mine. I've worked all my life. And
Yeah, and that's probably
Fuck
true,
that.
too.
Oh, yeah.
He probably got shit pay, and he was like, you know what, I make a little bit extra.
I mean, I think we'd all agree that America was probably built on greed and corruption.
Yeah.
You know, just being cynical,
Truthful.
but truthful
exactly.
as well. So
I agree. Yeah.
From there, I mean, how to get figured out. So it got broken up and discovered by Grant's Secretary of the Treasury, Benjamin Bristow. He actually led raids between 1875 and 76, which broke up the ring and led to the prosecution and 110 convictions with, here's the big one, $3 million in taxes recovered. That is in 1875.
So-
do you know how much that'd be today? That'd probably be,
I'll tell you how much it
like
was.
$5 billion.
yeah.
dollars.
It was close to $85 million.
I would have thought more. Like,
That's fucking insane.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
I saw, so there was conflicting reports on exactly how much they were able to extort out of the system, but I saw ranges from 3 up to 6
Million.
Yeah, which would be between 85 and 170
Wait,
million,
who's
I
getting
believe.
the $3 million? The government?
So what they're saying is the government said, hey, you all defrauded us of this amount, and they paid that back. But here's the thing you learn from this, in my mind, if they caught you for 3, you probably got away with 12. You know what I mean? Like,
So it's
okay.
this group of people, and they call them the Whiskey Trust, but basically a handful of people, I say handful, you know, I use that term very loosely, but there was a group of people that were just like, hey, you know what? You that work in the government and me that works at these distilleries and like 10 of us, if we all just play nice together, you guys can just tax us less. We will pay less on taxes. We will pay you a little bit more for doing that, and
Under
we'll
the
all
table.
make money.
They're all in,
They're
all
in
it.
on
they're all in
So-
cahoots.
Yeah, and it extended from like down to like not the consumer, but like the producer, all the way through into the government. It was like this giant middleman conglomerate, and that's why they were able to get away with so much, because they represented both sides of the coin.
Now, the weird part of this one, the end of this part here, was where the Benjamin Bristow, the Secretary of the Treasury, when he started prosecuting people and bringing them to, you know, everything up,
Yeah.
Orville Babcock, so that was Ulysses S. Grant, like assistant,
Right,
private
yeah.
assistant. He was indicted but acquitted.
Yeah.
So Grant refused to testify. He only praised his integrity. That's all he would say.
Yeah.
So he's a great man, like all these things.
Yeah.
So this was a start. This led to a lot of criticism and the perception of corruption in the Republican Party.
Yeah. One thing I thought was really cool about Benjamin Bristow is that when he conducted those raids, he went in and coordinated all of them at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So there was like...
Couldn't get away.
Yeah. So there's like multiple branches of this whiskey ring, right? And like this one in St. Louis is conducting business in this warehouse, and this other one over in Peoria is conducting. They had everybody tapped. They knew exactly who they were going to raid. He organized all the raids simultaneously. He cut telegram lines, so that way they couldn't
wow.
message each
That's
other.
like so high tech for
It is.
the
It
1800s.
is.
That's
And this is-
smart.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
smart.
And this is the shit you see in movies, and then everybody just kind of stormed in at the same time, and they took everybody down. Like, that was really cool. That's
is.
that's like mobster movie like level shit. And then he was able to just like take everybody and convict everybody, like you
Or
said.
Mission Impossible shit.
Or Mission, kind of. He came repelling in,
Yeah.
like through like a giant
Put a
silo.
little thing over to cover all the cell phone signals, you know?
The cell phones in
can't get any
1892
signal.
or whatever, yeah. So the entire system, as we have kind of seen, was not inherently corrupt, but it was inherently asking for corruption. It was flawed.
Ripe for the taking.
Right. At the very fundamental level, it was set up so it could be taken advantage of. And as we saw, it was taking advantage of. Well, enter Joseph Greenhut. And what years? In 1887 in Peoria, Illinois, he founded what I said earlier, the Distillers and Cattle Feeders Trust, or Distilling and Cattle Feeding Company. He had this idea to basically do what was being done already, but the way he touted it was, we're going to help fix pricing so it doesn't drop too low.
We're going to reform.
We're going to reform. We're going to stabilize pricing because we have an overabundance and it's getting out of control.
I've heard this before in politics.
I know, this sounds crazy, the way it happens like that, right? He like created this whole entire like ideology of like the goodness of what the Distillers and Cattle Feeders Trust was going to do. It was going to be a boon for the industry. And the way they were going to do it was by consolidating a lot of different businesses and entities together so they could collaborate, and it'd be a concerted effort. In the back of his mind, what he's thinking is like...
Everybody support everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know who's going to be in control of everybody?
Him.
He was. That was the whole idea behind it. So he formed that entity in Peoria, Illinois in 1887.
You know what's crazy about this one too? Have you been through Peoria? I think we might have traveled that way.
Probably driven
Have you been up
through?
that way, Kendra?
I'm not sure. I feel like I have.
It's a pretty town. So like it's on the river. Like at one point it was actually considered like whiskey capital of the world. Like
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
They had the port city there, kind of coming through the river, and then I guess a lot of distilleries were up that way, which is weird because when you think of like whiskey today or bourbon, we think Kentucky,
Yeah.
right? I mean, number one. So a very interesting point there.
And the thing is, over the course of their time, when they were around and they were powerful, they absorbed a lot of stuff from Kentucky. They
did.
Also Peoria. Also, logistical distribution chains in New York, all the way up to Philadelphia, I think.
Yeah.
Again, back down to St. Louis. A lot of these territories that were already kind of like corrupt and that were engaging in these practices. Within their span, they absorbed or shut down 65 distilleries in the first year that they were together.
And they probably had like 100 in the U.S., you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There weren't many.
Then they later expanded to 80 plus distilleries at its peak. And there were brands like Commonwealth. I've never really heard of a lot of these until I did this research. Brands like Commonwealth Distillery, which was out of Kentucky, Atherton Distillery, which was also out of Kentucky. Have you heard of them?
I've not heard of Atherton. I've heard of Commonwealth. They actually brought that name back right now.
Okay, that's awesome. That's cool, yeah.
Old Commonwealth.
Atherton Distillery, this is interesting, was owned by John McDougall Atherton. He would be absorbed by the Whiskey Trust, as it's called, and he would become the director of the trust. He always kind of maintained his own degree of independence. He would later on help found the Bottled and Bond Act.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool. It's like he was in this corrupt entity that was trying to just take over the country with alcohol and stuff like that. But then like at the end of it, he was just kind of like, you know what? We need more accountability. You don't see that.
He's probably getting poisoned from whiskey that wasn't, bottled.
Yeah, from his own
Some
products.
rock good shit.
Exactly
Make you go
right.
blind.
Yeah. They weren't limiting themselves to just distillers. They were going after grain suppliers, distributors. Every link in the distribution chain, they were taking over. How were they taking it over? Well, they would walk up mobster style and be like, hey, we're going to let you pay us for your protection. If they're like, no, I don't think we want that. We're going to be fine by ourselves. They'll go in and they'll be like, well, if you don't do that, we're going to break your kneecaps. I'm saying that euphemistically.
But nicely. I mean,
but nicely.
Yeah.
We're going to nicely break your kneecaps. We're going to do it very
We'll
gently
give you
over
some
the course of a
flowers
lot
once
of...
we do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send you a card
This
after
is
we
not
do
a
it.
question. You're going to do it.
Exactly right. So that's basically what they're doing. They engaged in strong arm tactics like price undercutting, bulk buying. They were shuttering plants just to reduce competition. They would basically go out. They're like, if there was a smaller distiller in there, they would enter that territory, completely undercut what they're doing, put them out of business. If it was somebody that they wanted gone, they would give them quote unquote a price they couldn't refuse. They would take it over, they would just shut it down, take all the resources, funnel it to another factory just to keep their operation going. I mean, this was like pretty hardcore, I guess, I want to say white collar shit.
It is.
But they were still doing it, like they were being very physical about it. Like they're being very pushy.
I'm trying to think of the movie Wall Street, Gordon Gekko, like the hostile takeovers.
Oh yeah,
that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah, well that's crazy. They actually use the legal system in a lot of their tactics. They would issue lawsuits to try to like pressure people into doing what they do. They would do like I don't know. This is a thing with big business, but they'll just like file a whole bunch of motions and just get you like mired in like legal.
Yeah, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
You'll go broke eventually.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it could be all bullshit,
Yep.
but you're just like
Doesn't
so
matter.
stuck having to deal with it that you're just like fucked.
Big bank, take little bank.
Yeah, that's just like a tactic they would do. So that was actually normal for them. People were starting to talk about monopolies around that time, so they started conducting creating shell companies like the Kentucky Distilleries Warehouse Company, which actually ended up becoming, I think, an actual warehouse company, which was kind of funny when they split off at the end. But they were doing that to try to evade the monopolies. Some of the more dire tactics they did actually involved trying to blow up distilleries, like physically blow them up
I know about this.
with bombs. Tell us about it, Jason.
So one of those distilleries was the H.H. Shuffelt Distillery in Chicago. Pretty large distillery, probably the biggest direct competitor for the Whiskey Trust.
Yeah.
They tried to get them to join the Whiskey Trust, and of course they said hell no.
Yeah.
From there, I mean, the Whiskey Trust is very reasonable. So what they did is they just tried to blow up their distillery.
Yeah.
So they put dynamite there in 1888, tried to eliminate them, but it didn't work. It only blew up like part of it.
Yeah.
And what they did is they quickly rebuilt. So when they built it back there in 1898, 10 years later,
Yeah.
the distillery was blown up again. And in 1901, they had to actually, officially go ahead and sell it.
Yeah.
So they sold it to Lyman Gage. This guy's with the First National Bank of Chicago.
Okay.
Seems innocent. You sold it to a banker, whatever. But the damn dude was with the Whiskey Trust.
Oh my gosh, plot twist.
So they sold it to the Whiskey Trust
Yeah.
and didn't even realize it until after.
That's pretty
They
crazy.
got screwed. So
Yeah.
tried to blow them up twice.
Yeah.
Ended up selling it to them, didn't even know it.
Yeah.
that
There was
sucks.
another
Yeah.
attempt to actually blow up a distillery in Owensboro.
Okay.
J.W. Morton Field owned a distillery called J.W.M. Field Distillery. And
Could be down there Green River way now. I don't know. It's probably.
I think it
probably
might.
around there,
I think
yeah.
it might be honestly. But somebody planned quote unquote an infernal machine. This is what they called it back then. I think it was some sort of improvised like Molotov cocktail or something
Okay.
to like set off an explosion and create a firebomb. The problem is this one didn't go off. So they tried to sabotage and destroy another distillery. Fucked up. And then all of a sudden at that point, all fingers are pointing at the Whiskey Trust. They're like, everybody's coming up.
Everybody knows it's them.
Oh, they
Everybody
know
knows-
when the bombs are going off. Who's
Yeah.
doing it?
It's like it's just like at this point it's like we'd be stupid not to look at these guys. Everybody, it's all circumstantial evidence, but everybody's just kind of like it's got to be them. There was one guy who did get in trouble, and he was the guy that actually planted the bombs over at H.H. Shuffelt Distillery. His name was George Gibson.
Okay.
And he was the secretary of the Whiskey Trust. They kind of considered him the enforcer. Like, he's the guy they would send in, like that movie Hitman. He's the guy they would send in.
pyro guy.
Yeah, he was probably, that's all he was. He was just like, I like playing with fire. But yeah, he was the guy they would send in. He would do a lot of the strong arming and a lot of like the destruction and stuff like that. He ended up getting, I don't know if he got convicted, but he got charged.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up resigning as the secretary of the Whiskey Trust. They kept him on the payroll.
Of course.
Which meant-
consultant. He's a consultant now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which means
Yeah.
he kept doing shit because he was the bad guy of the company, But at that point, they're starting to point fingers and be like, something is off with the Whiskey Trust.
So it's kind of starting to fall apart, right? Like
Yeah.
people's figuring them out now.
Yeah. In 1894, there was a doctor by the name of Jokichi Takamine.
Mm-hmm.
He invented what I was saying earlier, the method for developing whiskey using Koji. You know what Koji is, Kendra?
No.
No? I will tell you. Koji is a... what is Koji, Jason?
It's from rice, so that's what I think it's like a mold, right? Like a fungus that actually starts.
I was trying to think of the name and
Yeah.
it escaped me, so I translated.
Wait, does it have anything to do with like sake?
It does.
Everything
Okay.
to do with
Everything.
sake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aspergillus oryzae. Aspergillus oryzae, that's what it is. That is
Gesundheit.
actually the scientific name. That's what you were trying to say, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what Koji mold is. That's what's used in soy sauce. That's what's used in sake. That's what's used in a lot of fermented things over in Japan.
Okay.
He figured out a way to take this Koji mold, use it to extract the starches from grain without a traditional malting process. All this means is that he figured out how to make whiskey cheaper.
And better than a lot of the stuff they were making then.
Yeah, and more efficiently.
Yeah.
So the Whiskey Trust caught wind of this, and they were like, "Hey, Dr. Takamine, go ahead."
I was going to say, is he Japanese? But you just said his
He's
name.
very
so,
Japanese. He's the most Japanese.
Okay.
The Whiskey Trust got a hold of him, and they were like, "Hey, we heard about your method of using Koji to develop whiskey and create whiskey and save money. We want to invite you over to demonstrate your process." He comes over. They see it. They're like, "This could be revolutionary for our business. We want you to work for us." He's like, "Okay." They contract him. They pay him. He works for them. That's fine. They're thinking, we can save big bucks here. We can save a shitload of money. We can revolutionize our logistical process. They're just seeing dollar signs, right? He ends up, as he's in the United States, he kind of develops, he does create his own company, his own independent company to patent this process of using Koji to develop whiskey. At which point they're like, oh, wait, hold on. We wanted this for us.
You work for us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you work for us. We wanted this. And he's like, no, this is mine. I'm just helping you. They're like, okay, well, just let us buy it from you. He says, no, I invented this. It's mine. And they're like, okay, sounds good. They turn around, walk out of the building. Next day,
Did it blow up?
they send a bunch of guys over to his distillery where he was working, and they try to kill him. He ends up. So this part is.
I think they did try to blow him up. I'm pretty sure.
So this is the part where it's kind of it's kind of like not hit or miss, but it's kind of gray, where people are kind of like speculating. But supposedly he caught wind that they were coming into his distillery. He goes down in the basement of the distillery, like behind a desk, and just physically hides, and like waits for them to leave. They go searching the whole entire area for him because they were going to try to kill him and take all his information. They couldn't find him. So like, fuck it, let's burn the place down. Oh. So then they firebomb his distillery. I don't think it burned the whole place down, but it burned his lab, coincidentally. And they're like, oh, it's just a very unfortunate accident that only burned your part of the distillery and everything that you were working on. And at that point, he was kind of like, I'm a little in over my head. I don't think I want to hang around here any longer. I had thought in this last episode we talked about, I thought he moved back to Japan. He didn't at all.
I did too, actually. Yeah.
He didn't at all. He stayed in the United States. He just moved up to New York.
Okay.
So he basically kind of like restarted his life. He visited Japan and stuff like that, but he stayed in the United States. He ended up becoming a super well-known doctor, inventor.
I remember the episode. I'm trying to think. I think he was a doctor. I think he was.
He was a doctor, but he was the first one to create.
He had several inventions underneath him.
He isolated adrenaline. He created epinephrine.
Oh, really?
What was
Like
it?
an EpiPen?
Yeah.
Epinephrine. Yeah.
Yeah, he created the
Damn,
EpiPen.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he was the first one to do that.
If that's wrong, we'll just blur over this. It's fine.
Yeah, facts are optional here. He came up with a couple other things, that some sort of digestive enzyme that's still used in a lot of like supplements and stuff.
So he
today.
stopped distilling though and making.
He stopped distilling. His work kind of just got buried. It was recently resurfaced.
It was.
Like 10 years ago or something like that. Check out our episode on Koji whiskey for the full rundown on that. It's actually super interesting and it's delicious. I need to get another bottle. But yeah, he ended up going on to just be like an amazing doctor, and he invented a lot of modern medicine that like saved millions of lives. So it's a good thing that he didn't die. But it was at that point that people were starting to really get disinterested in the idea of the Whiskey Trust.
Yeah, they were falling apart.
Yeah.
So back then, I mean, looking at it, so the downfall started when I could read about it was the Sherman Antitrust Act in 1890, and that was actually kind of invented or kind of came about, created for them,
Kind of.
like to get them out of everything, right?
Yeah.
When you look at that, they actually reorganized, and you told me we talked about this before.
Yeah.
The Distilling and Cattle Feed Company.
Yep.
Do you know that was actually they were actually listed on the original Dow Jones?
Really?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, that's
They were.
crazy.
Wow.
They
It's
go way
crazy.
back then,
Publicly traded company.
That's hilarious,
That's the
yeah.
Whiskey Trust.
Yeah.
So from there, I mean, we talked about this too. Like when distilleries were opening, what they were trying to do was shut them down anyway.
Yeah.
What they ended up doing was buying a lot of them, like you said, taking all the resources and moving them. But
Yeah.
they're still sitting there with empty distilleries, empty land.
Yeah.
They've got everything just sitting there.
Yeah.
So that was part of the downfall too. And then all the ones that they had absorbed and bought, now they're owing all these taxes, all
Yeah.
this rent that they have to pay. When their income starts coming in or stops coming in, all the tax revenues kind of catching up to them, all the lawsuits and stuff. I mean, they're hurting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where they're at.
Yeah. There was there was multiple entities that they kind of fractured off into. There was also the American Spirits Manufacturing Company. There was Kentucky Distillers Warehouse Company, which ended up getting into food.
Yeah.
National Distillers was part of it. You
That's a
remember
big
them?
one. That's
we
a big
talked
one.
about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they tried to kind of branch off to kind of stay afloat. A lot of them floundered. Some of them got bought out. So that was pretty much the end of them.
Well, they had somebody there, though, and I couldn't find the name, but they actually saw the end coming. And so what they started doing somehow was started buying up aged whiskey.
Really?
So they were buying product with that and just keeping it, kind of like we talked about in some other episodes,
Yeah.
Just sitting there. And then what they did is at one point they were actually acquired by Jim Beam.
Yeah. Beam bought a lot of that.
NDP.
A lot of
yeah,
the
they
stuff,
bought that
yeah.
brand.
Yeah. Joseph Greenhut would go on to head a company called Siegel Cooper, which was like a department store chain. Guess what? They went out of business.
It wasn't Macy's.
Yeah, and then like I was saying earlier, John McDougall Atherton, who owned the Atherton Distillery, ended up being a key instrumental player in forming the Bottle and Bond Act, which was, again, kind of ironic because he was also a key figure in the underhanded activities of the Whiskey Trust to circumvent taxation in American bourbon.
So now you got a half gallon. I would say bottle. That's a plastic half gallon of something
so
in front of you.
I got an $18 bottle, 1.75 liter of Old Crow here. Why do I have this, Jason?
I don't know. Tell me.
This is actually...
Because we're cheap? I mean, is that
That's
maybe?
literally all it is. Now, this is the part where we get drunk. But Old Crow, actually, this brand stems back from... it's basically a Whiskey Trust legacy brand. I don't know which distiller they would say it actually comes from, but if we're talking like recipes from that era, like this is kind of as close as you get, unless you get something like an old Taylor or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think I sent you some, we were talking about this episode, some Old Crow stuff from back then is super desirable.
Yeah.
They have these chessmen, so it's a chess set.
Yeah.
And they're very, very expensive, very hard to get, but you'll find them sometimes. They're about $1,000, $1,200 a piece.
Really?
Each
Has
chess
this brand
piece.
really been around since?
Ton. It's been around a long time.
1900s?
I mean,
Oh,
this
okay.
literally stems back from this
Yeah.
area. In the
Oh,
late
okay.
The
1800s.
brand does. Now, not
brand
the
does.
product itself. I don't
Exactly,
even know
yeah.
where this is made, honestly. So
It was made last year.
Beam. This is Beam. So it can't be too bad. I mean, it can't
I
be
mean,
awful.
It's $18 in a plastic jug.
Yeah.
It's got to be
That was
something, right?
$18.
Yeah.
I have some relatives that would love this.
I've got
You
another
probably
one.
do too.
I got another one.
They're more than I know. You all came from the same area. They can have some if they want it. I'll ship
Yeah.
it to them, or they can come pick it up. So, what do you think of that, Kendra?
It's like watered down. I feel like
80
it's some
proof.
bourbon
That's
that
right.
I had
That's right.
It's strong corn.
some ice
very
in it.
strong
It's
corn.
good. I mean, I like it. I would drink this.
Yeah, I mean, it's
sip on
probably barely 4 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't do your research on Old Crow, but I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
80 proof, 4-year-old, watered down.
80 proof. Yeah,
It's not horrible.
No, I mean this
Yeah.
would be like sitting out in a fucking cornfield when we're like 20 years old.
Yeah.
You know, just like we got some old.
Or a
you
good
know.
mixer. That's a good
Oh,
mixer.
it's a great
Yeah,
mixer.
yeah. This is one of those that's like, let's get drunk.
Yeah.
Okay, I got my Old Crow. You know,
For real.
Call.
Yeah. This is the closest thing I
think
can
it's a
find to
crow. I don't know,
represent
maybe.
the story that we were talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, we talked about it. I just didn't have anything. I think old granddad, we're looking back, some older stuff for Old Crow, and I didn't have any on hand. So
Yeah.
And I
That
wasn't going to pay $1,000, on a whim.
No, fuck no. Yeah. That, this whole, like, this entity, that was absolutely mind-boggling, though. I didn't realize, like, how unscrupulous they was. Like, they were.
Well, I think it just shows you, I mean, not being that guy, but we've been a nation and a world of just, like, there's a lot of corruption at the heart of everything.
Yeah.
And it started with good intentions at some point and then quickly
speak.
turned
Yeah.
the other way. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll get better one day. Let's just all come together and love each other
We're not.
and drink a lot of fucking bourbon.
Thanks for watching. If you liked it, then please share it. If you didn't, then just keep drinking until you do. For more Arsenic Culture, you can check us out on all the socials. We are at Arsenic Culture,
Like and subscribe on YouTube.
and we'll see you on the next one.